In 1749, Jean-Jacques Rousseau promoted the idea that man is inherently good, that is, good by nature. And given the amount of oxygen we now give this idea in media, politics, and entertainment, it's clear that it's not going anywhere for a while. But regardless, in a challenging response to this romantic view of human nature, in Notes from Underground, Fyodor Dostoevsky paints a picture of humanity as being as close to hell as it is to heaven, a humanity that is innately wretched and revolting. And it was then that some 80 years later, Carl Jung would identify this dark aspect of us as the shadow. But rather than condemn the shadow of humanity, as many religious groups have and still do, Jung would instead look to it as the gateway for reaching our highest good. Back in 1913, after departing from Sigmund Freud to undergo his practice of analytical psychology, Carl Jung sought to help people by leading them through the complexities of their psyche. His emphasis was on harmonizing the conscious with the unconscious, where the conscious is your thoughts, memories, and emotions that you're aware of, and the unconscious, the information you've forgotten, along with any memories you might have repressed. Now, this work of harmonizing the two, the conscious with the unconscious, this was what Jung called individuation, or what's also referred to as inner work. And so it was in this process of doing one's inner work that he introduced a method so conceptually counterintuitive to any traditional religious orientation. It was an invitation for you to confront your darkness, your shadow, and not as an enemy, but as a friend.
Master's my friend.
Now, what is the shadow? To put it simply, your shadow is your other half, your alter ego, your night name. It's essentially the contrast to your normal everyday persona. But to give more context to this, Jung saw that there was no meaning without contrast, in the sense that there is no light without darkness, no joy without pain, and no I without a thou. And this led to the notion that paradox itself is in some real sense the water of life. And so Jung thought that to not drink of this water, to not characterize your own life by paradox, that would create a dysfunction in your being or your wholeness. This is why he said, I'd rather be whole than good. But this raises an obvious question. How do we go about achieving wholeness? Well, Robert A. Johnson, a writer and follower of Jung, identified that this process is similar to that of what we see in a seesaw. It's in the function of it, meaning that the purpose of our person is in this shifting back and forth between dualities of the self, between good and evil, loud and quiet, rational and irrational, serious and silly. Now, what is the value of the shadow on an individual level? Well, the value of the shadow comes with knowing the shadow, because in doing that, it makes you a complete person. It fills in what the merely good in you cannot, so that your life becomes balanced. If I'm to say it another way, the shadow has a compensatory role that completes your wholeness, so that in seeking and finding and embracing your shadow, the outcome is a deep knowing of where you're weak, where you can be exploited, and how you can be harmed. This is why Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Now, to bring this down to earth a bit, on a practical level, what the result of this looks like could be you protecting yourself from others who might harm and exploit the weaknesses you know you have, or you learning to say no to invitations you'd rather not accept, or just simply you learning to not always see the good in people. So to sum it all up, Jung thought that the exploration of your inner world was the most important thing that you could do in your life. And he also thought that a crucial aspect of that exploration was to meet and embrace your shadow. But if on the other hand you reject your shadow, Jung thought that you succeed to only reject the other half of yourself. On this point, Alexander Solzhenitsyn put it this way: the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being, and who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart. And so in virtue of your shadow being your other half, it deserves to be integrated into your whole personality. And again, not as an enemy, but as a friend.